Hey everybody, my name is Deja and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my February wrap up. So I'm actually at the library and I've never been to this library before, but I just didn't know where to park my car, and we're gonna try and do this wrap up pretty quick because battery's not charged. The sun will be going down soon, so I'm gonna try and make this as fast as possible. As I said, we're gonna get going. So I participated in 3 readathons in February. The first one was Blackathon and I was on Team Ocean. I completed 4 of the 5 prompts. Then for the X's and O's readathon, I was on Team O and I only completed 1 of my 3 prompts. For Black Romanticathon, I definitely completed bingos, multiple, and I think I almost blacked out the board. And then for the Romantasy readathon, I was on the Team Dark Romance Reader and I had 1 book for 3 prompts and I read that book. And then for my spinner wheel, I spun 5 times and technically I completed all 5 prompts, but to have said that, I would have to double up on some prompts, so really I completed 4 of the 5. And then for my 23 books to read in 2023, I read 2 books. So that is just a preface. And then for my stats, I read 12 books in February. 8 of those are by POC authors. I didn't reread or DNF anything, and I read about 3,569 pages. I notice the pages that I get from Goodreads and the pages that it says that I completed on Storygraph are 2 different things. And then I read 3 contemporary, 2 fantasy, 1 horror, 4 romance, and 2 thrillers. Even though I only read 4 romance, some of my contemporaries I read because they were supposed to be romances, but I classified them as contemporaries. And then I had to read some thriller and horror and other stuff because I literally was getting so burnt out because of romance and contemporary books. And then I read 5 audiobooks, 2 ebooks, and then 5 that was a mixture of audiobook with either an ebook or physical. And I read 8 adult, 1 new adult, and actually 3 YA, which is surprising. But a lot of the books that I wanted to read for my Black Romanticathon and by Black authors that I have or I had arcs of were young adult. And then I had 1 2-star, 1 2.5 star, 2 3 stars, 4 4 stars, 2 4.5 stars, and 2 5 stars. So I read 10 novels, 1 novella, and 1 graphic novel, and 3 of the books I read this month were arcs. And then I read 4 debut authors, 4 new to me authors, and 4 repeat authors. So that's really fun, but I did read a lot of new to me authors this month. Compared to last month, I read more repeat authors, and that's probably because of the Black Romanticathon. So I'm just gonna go in order of my rating. And I'm not going to talk about all of the books because I do have a whole reading vlog for Black Romanticathon where I read 4 of the books. My lowest rated book this month was Coveted by Christina C. Jones, which I gave 2 stars. Okay, Miss Sun is coming. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. It is the 2nd book in a series. I read this one during my Black Romanticathon, but I will talk about my ratings. So I've actually lowered them for a lot of the books that I read for Black Romanticathon because a lot of times when I sit on my ratings change. And especially with romance, I start to not remember it at all. So when that happens, I definitely lower my rating. So I give this one 2 stars, which is lower than what I gave the first book. I honestly would rate them the same, but I wanted to give this one 2 stars. I originally gave it 3 because I liked it more than the first one, and I think I gave the first one 2.5 stars. But I realized I really just don't like this series. I love Christina C. Jones's writing. I adore her writing and her characters, but this is a paranormal romance with fantasy elements, and I just don't like the fantasy elements. I don't like the paranormal aspects. I don't like it at all, and it makes it very unenjoyable for me. She has amazing writing, amazing characters, great steam, but the fantasy elements, I just can't get over it. I don't enjoy reading it because of those elements. And if you want to know more of my thoughts, you can watch that reading vlog. The next lowest rated book that I read was a 2.5 star read, and that was Fake It Till You Bake It. And this one was another one that I read for the Black Romanticathon, and it also counts for Blackathon. I think the first one did as well for a novella, but this one was the group book for Blackathon, and I did kind of enjoy it at first, but it ended up just being a mediocre romance for me because it's not memorable to me at all. I found the main character extremely annoying, and the hero was not super bad, but I just didn't really feel their chemistry, and I feel like you could have done so much more, and this had so much more potential because it had such an interesting idea, and it ended up just being a middle-of-the-road mediocre romance, which I'm trying to really put in my head that 2.5 stars is average, because this really was just an average romance. I wouldn't not recommend it. If you want to read it, it's not a bad read by any means, but it's just probably not something that's going to be super memorable or amazing or blow you out the water. Again, if you want to know more of my thoughts, check out that reading vlog. And the next one also was for that reading vlog. So apparently that reading vlog was actually lower than I thought because tell me why at least 3 of the 4 books that I read for that reading vlog are my lowest rated books of the month. But this one I did enjoy. It's called Charming as a Verb by Ben Felipe, and this one was really fun and interesting, and it was super relatable for me. It is a YA contemporary, but I was mad because I thought it was a romance, especially because there's 2 characters on the cover, but it is not a romance. There's no happily ever after. But I did enjoy that this was from a male's perspective, because I feel like in YA contemporaries, especially ones with romances in it or ones that are actually romance, which is what I thought this was originally, normally they're not from a male perspective, so I really enjoyed seeing that. But this is just a average YA contemporary that talks about like leaving high school, going to college, and that transition. But this also deals with like having like immigrant parents and being poor and going to a private school, and I really enjoyed those conversations. Again, if you want any more in-depth thoughts on the past 3 books or a more in-depth synopsis, I would check out that video, because I'm not really going into the synopses of these books because I talked in depth and length about them in that video. So yeah, it's a pretty long one, but I had a good time. The next one that was rated 3 stars is Burn Down Rise Up by Vincent Triana. The next one that I rated 3 stars was Burn Down Rise Up, and this one was pretty fun. It is a YA horror fantasy kind of. It takes place in the Bronx, and it has to do with this main character, and her mom starts to get sick, and she's like in the hospital with like this fungus, like nobody knows what's going on, and people are also disappearing in the Bronx, so they start trying to research like what's going on, and her and her friends discover that there is this game that you can play called the Echo game that is like in a subway. So you do it like in some sort of subway, and people do it across the world, where basically like you do this thing. It's kind of similar to like Bloody Mary or like games like that, and when you do that, the subway then like transforms and you're in an alternate dimension, and that has to do with like the disappearances and the illnesses that are going around. And so our main character is really trying to figure out like what's going on with her mom and what's going on with these disappearances. And this is also a queer book, and I did really enjoy this one. Actually, I did give it 3 stars because the writing was not my favorite, and this is supposed to be like Stranger Things vibes, which I really did get the Stranger Things vibes from this book. I will give it that. That's definitely why I gave it 3 stars instead of like 2.5, because this really did deliver strongly on Stranger Things vibes. Because like in this alternate dimension, it's very much like the Upside Down and stuff like that, but I feel like this did not necessarily deliver on like the big bad. There is kind of like a big bad in this, which, you know, Stranger Things also has, but I feel like in Stranger Things, you know, the big bad is actually scary. Like you actually fear them. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of buildup, and for me, this book just didn't have that. I didn't really feel like that tension, or like I wasn't ever scared of the big bad or scared for the characters. I feel like one big thing about Stranger Things that I really love is the Upside Down and everything. Like that's not necessarily for me particularly. Like when I first started watching Stranger Things, it took me a while to get into the show. Like I tried to start it multiple times, but I fell in love with the characters, and I've always been super scared of what's gonna happen to them and like this big showdown. Like what, like are my characters gonna be okay? Like that's what has me. And this one, I didn't feel a super strong attachment to the characters, and I feel like a lot of the side characters were not fleshed out at all. It was just okay for me. I also, with the Echo game, I did not like that aspect. I don't think I liked that kind of like element. It was giving very juvenile, and I feel like it was very disjointed from like this Upside Down alternate universe. Like I feel like they didn't mesh that well together. So yeah, but that's why I gave it 3 stars. It was still enjoyable, and I read this one as an arc, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for something like this, but for me, it just wasn't my favorite. Moving on to my 4 stars, my first 4 star was Stay Awake by Megan Golden. This was the first book that I read, and I absolutely loved Megan Golden's other release, The Night Swim. It was amazing, and this one also I really did like. This one is about our main character, and she wakes up in a taxi with the words like stay awake like written on her hands and on her body, and she goes to her apartment and realizes that she doesn't live there anymore. Like people are telling them like, this is, why are you here? Like this is our apartment, not your apartment, we don't know who you are. And so she's very confused because her reality is not what she remembers it to be. And so this has a lot of like amnesia related stuff, and I just really enjoyed the twists and turns throughout this story. I thought it was so well done. Megan Golden really works in like real life issues into her stories that like are so important, but it doesn't seem forced, and she works in it in a very seamless way. And even though this was so twisty and turny, it didn't seem like over dramatic. Like it felt very realistic and down to earth. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely a time and place for over dramatic thrillers, but this, like, her thrillers are so realistic and work in such amazing issues, but also manage to be super engaging and twisty and turny, which I absolutely love. I don't really want to discuss this book anymore because I don't want to spoil it. I think that's best going in not knowing much besides the fact that our main character has stay awake written on her hands. There's also a police perspective in this, which I enjoyed. I know some people don't enjoy that, but I really enjoyed that. And there is some sort of like other investigation, and it kind of gives a little bit of like Criminal Minds vibes. So I really enjoyed this one, and I would highly recommend it. It was such a good thriller. My next 4-star was actually Blood Sugar by Sasha Rothschild. I'm sorry, Megan is like getting in the way of the book, but we're just gonna have to live because we love Megan. This one I read for my 23 challenge because I read this right after the Black Romantic-a-thon because I was burnt out and I just really wanted a thriller. And this is Haley's, like, one of her favorite books, and I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. In this, we follow a female serial killer, and she has killed 3 people, and she is actually being like investigated. Like, she got arrested for the murder of her husband, but she actually did not kill him. She killed 3 other people, and so she's going to try and clear her name with the police and convince them that she did not end up killing him, but she does not want to reveal that she killed other people and like talk about her past too much because she did kill other people. And she's also a therapist, and she's very like interesting because it's like this dichotomy of like she's a realistic person, she's a therapist, she cares about things, she likes dogs, but she's also a killer and a little psychopathic. And this book is called Blood Sugar because her husband actually was a diabetic, and this has diabetes rep in it, and he died because of something related to diabetes, and they're trying to say like she killed him with like insulin or something, or sugar. And so I did really enjoy this one. I really enjoyed the writing and the discussions around our main character. It really plays on like the grayness of life, which I really like because I think we make things very black and white. And obviously she is a bad person. She like killed people, but the people that she killed, I would say, were also not great people. Even in the court of law, it would definitely be wrong, but like morally is what she did wrong is like really what we should be thinking about, which I really enjoyed those discussions because obviously murder is not good, but at the same time there's different things that are like, let's just say if somebody rapes you and then you don't kill them in that moment but you go back and kill them later, like, is that wrong? In the court of law, yeah, like you killed them completely, like it's completely wrong, like you're gonna go to jail, but like morally, killing somebody or killing your abuser if they're not directly attacking you, is that wrong? We talk about this a lot in my criminology classes and even in high school. In one of my classes we talked about this because we did like mock trials. We did 3 and one of them had to do with that. I was actually a battered, abused woman, so in the trial, obviously. So I just really liked those discussions, and I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed our main character. I thought it was super interesting, and I love seeing her also being a therapist. I just really love that aspect. So yeah, I highly recommend this book for sure. My next 4-star was Love Times Infinity, and this one is a really good YA contemporary, and it is a romance as well, where we follow our main character, and she lives with her grandmother. She's in high school, and she's about to start applying to colleges. She's in her junior year of high school, but she is having a hard time writing her essays because she does not have a good connection with her mom. So basically, she was conceived through sexual assault, and so she has never really been like with her mom as much, maybe when she was a kid a little bit, and she's like in a support group with kids that all were conceived through this horrible tragic thing. So I loved seeing those characters with their different like how they're reacting to it differently and their different ways that they are involved. So like she is with her grandmother, but then some of the other kids are in foster care, some of them were adopted, some of them live with their parents still. So I really enjoyed seeing how everybody's lives have played out, but this one does deal with intense topics, and it does have a romance in it. As I said, there's a new boy in school that she ends up having a romance with. I did feel like that this could have dived more into commentary around sexual assault, and it did talk about abortion a little bit, but not too much. And I feel like some people could argue that, oh, this is just a YA contemporary, like you don't need to go that in depth. But I completely disagree. Like I feel like young adults need to have these topics in their books, and while it did do a good job, I feel like it could have done more. It could have pushed the envelope more, and maybe you could argue that wasn't the point of the book, but like then it didn't need to be part of the book. She could have just had an estranged relationship with her parent, but I think this could have talked more like specifically about like rape culture, and I think that could have been something that I did a little bit better, which is why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5 stars. But I still really enjoyed this, and I would highly specifically recommend it for young adults because I feel like it would be super relatable for them. And this is not like a topic that you think about, like you never think about what it's like to be a child who was conceived through sexual assault. So I just really enjoyed that representation and seeing that in general. I thought it was really well done. So yeah, for young adults, I think this would be absolutely amazing. And the last 4-star that I had is Ties That Tether. In this, we follow a girl who is Nigerian, and her father died, and when her father died when she was like 12, her mom and her sister and her moved to Canada and were taken in by their uncle, and her uncle kind of like acts as like her dad now, and she promised her dad when he died that she was going to marry a Nigerian man, and that's like a big thing related to her and her parents. Like her mom really wants her to marry a Nigerian man. I believe she's in her 30s or late 20s, so her mom is like really like, hey, like you need to start like dating people, getting married. And so she's always like really tried to like be with a Nigerian man because she made that promise to her dead father on his deathbed. So like that's like really important to her. But one night she actually has a one-night stand with a white man and doesn't really see him again for like a month, but then he actually is a new hire at her job. Obviously now they have to work together, but she also finds out that she's pregnant with his child. Now she can't just ignore him and the fact that she hooked up with him, but now like she has a child. She has to decide what she's gonna do. Is she gonna try and have a relationship with him, and how does that relate to being Nigerian and what she promised her mom and her dad? And I really did enjoy this. I thought it was super well done. I know a lot of people don't like the pregnancy trope, but even my friend Jan, who literally hates anything pregnancy related, gave this book 5 stars. This has just really amazing representation about immigrants, and when you move to a country, like trying to integrate your past and your history and your culture in with your future and where you live now and what that really means. And obviously it talks about parents, and even this does have representation for like a pretty traumatic birth. So if you've had like a traumatic birth or birth is triggering for you, I would not say like it goes in depth. Like as I said, Jan hates anything pregnancy related and gave this book 5 stars. Like specifically, I think if you had a traumatic birth, this could be a little like triggering, so I would just be careful. I really just love the discussions that were had in this. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because I did not feel a huge chemistry and connection between our main character and this white man that she has a relationship with. I just really didn't care about him particularly, and I didn't feel their chemistry a ton, but I still enjoyed the overall story and the meanings and messages and themes that it discussed. Moving on to my 4.5 stars, I have Fumbled, which I really did enjoy. This is the second book in the Intercepted series. They are like football romances, and I did enjoy this one. It's an interracial romance. If you want more thoughts about it, check out my Black Romantic-a-thon vlog. But this one also has to do with like not pregnancy, but our main character has a child with the main character because they knew each other as teens. It's a second chance romance, and now he never knew that he had a child, and he is starting to like work his way into both their lives and get to know his own child, which I really just love that trope of like getting to know a child you didn't know that you had, or becoming kind of like a step parent type figure. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Intercepted is still my favorite in the series, but I did really enjoy that one. Maybe if I reread it, it'd be different. I do need to reread it, but I really liked Fumbled. My next 4.5 star was King of Battle and Blood. This one is not a good fantasy romance at all. Like I would not even recommend this, but it is a vampire fantasy romance, and it's about our main character, and she is actually getting married off to the vampire king, and she decides that she is going to kill him because they do not like him at all, but basically her father and him made a deal, and so she decides that she's gonna kill him because she thinks that's like what would be good for her people, because now her people are like under his rule, if that makes sense. And so yeah, but then she starts as a romance with him, and this is very similar. If you like From Blood and Ash, I would definitely recommend this. It has a little bit probably less plot, which is hard to even say because I feel like From Blood and Ash doesn't even have that much plot, but has a ton of smut too. And this was really just a good time. That's why I gave 4.5 stars. It's not even like that memorable. Like I don't even remember like super the beats of the plot, because there was a little bit of plot, but it was just a really good time. I had an amazing time reading it. This was also on my 23 books to read in 2023, and I just wanted a little break, so I decided to pick it up. And I think it was also on my spinner wheel spins, so that's why I definitely wanted to read it. But it was just a good time, really. That's literally all that I have to say, because it literally was not particularly good, not particularly memorable, but I just had such a good time with it that I wanted to give it 4.5 stars because it was really such a fun time. Like I did not have any complaints while reading it. Was the writing fantastic? No. Was it that fantabulous? No. But like I really didn't expect that going in, and I just expected a good time, and that's what it delivered. So yeah, if you're looking for a good time and you enjoy From Blood and Ash, I would recommend this. But if you don't like From Blood and Ash, I don't think you will like this. So Okay, my battery's been blinking for so long, so hopefully I can get through the last 2 books. So my first 5-star that I read was Saga Volume 10, and this is the new volume, and they were on hiatus for a while, and I loved this volume, but it is so different because in Volume 9 there was something super big that, like, literally, like, huge, that changed the whole story and everything about the structure of this series. Like, it's just foundational, it's life-changing for the series. And then they went on hiatus, like, literally F them, because why would they do that to us? But this story is so different now, but still, like, what I love about it. I mean, I'm heartbroken, but, like, I understand, like, you know, they have to do stuff to keep us on our toes, to shock us, so, like, I get it, and that's why I still gave it 5 stars, because I just had such a good time, and I enjoyed being back in this world so much. And if you ever read Saga, it's about, it's a graphic novel series about 2 people who fell in love that are from basically, like, warring races. This takes place in, like, space. They are from 2 different planets, and it's like the wings gets the horns, and, like, people have magic, and they're in war, and, like, you're not supposed to procreate, you're not even supposed to be on each other's planets. Like, if people see you and you have wings, you're on a horn planet, they kill you, you know, like, it's, like, really, really, really divided. In the first graphic novel, you find this out, but the main character, she's pregnant, and actually the story is being told from the daughter, and you see her throughout her life. And basically, she's telling her parents' story and her life story later on. And I just really loved being back in this world, even though it's just so different. I'm so sad, but so happy at the same time, is literally what I said in my Goodreads review. Okay, so we're on to the last book, and that is What a Match by Mimi Grace. I started this one during the Black Romantic-a-thon, and I finished it at the very end of the month because it just took me forever. But I absolutely love this story. In this, we follow, obviously, our hero and heroine. It's a romance where, basically, they don't really know each other, but the heroine, her brother, is best friends with the hero, and they own a, like, boxing gym together because they're both professional boxers, and they own a boxing gym together. And our hero, his apartment, like, the heat stops working, and they're like, you literally can't live here for like a week. So he tries to live at his best friend's house or his apartment, but they're doing, like, renovations, and it's just not good. So he's like, no, bro, like, you can't stay here, I'm gonna ask my sister. And so he asks his sister, and his sister takes him in, and he sleeps on the couch, and they're really not friends. Like, for a while they kind of avoid each other, but obviously they have a romance. And the heroine, she is actually trying to date, and she joins a matchmaking service, and so she is going on a lot of dates, trying to meet a lot of different men through the matchmaking service. And she is also a school teacher. But I just love the writing in this. I love their chemistry. Like, they together were so cute, and I loved both of them. That's what really makes a romance like a 5 star for me, is if I love both characters individually and I love them together and I love their chemistry, it's gonna be a 5 star. I think this is some of the best writing I've ever read, and I literally cannot wait to read Mimi Grace's backlist because this was just so phenomenal. The characters, the chemistry, the side characters, like, I cared about the side characters so much. There's, like, this older couple that's in here, obviously the brother slash best friend, and then also our main character, our heroine, she also has a best friend, and I just loved all the side characters so much, and I just loved their story, and, like, some really funny things happen in this, and I just loved it so much. It was absolutely phenomenal. I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a Black romance author, pick up Mimi Grace, because I just know the rest of her work is also going to be amazing, because her writing is just so phenomenal, and she writes characters so phenomenally where you just care about them so much. Those are all the books that I read in February. I hope that y'all enjoyed. I can't believe I actually made it all the way through this video in my car. I just decided to. So let me know if you like the car filming, because I might do it for, like, all my wrap-ups, because I really, really enjoy it. Okay.
Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye. Do you understand?
And I hope that y'all enjoyed that Megan Thee Stallion joined us as well. If you made it to the end, leave the little blood droplet emoji down below for blood sugar, and I will see y'all on my next one. Bye, everybody.
Trying to look like you're winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in. Yeah, you got the nerve to be on me.